Hello, welcome to Should I Buy This Game featuring Obsession. My name is Christine, and in this video I'll give you a brief description on how the game is played and then share a few things I may like or dislike about the game to help you decide if you want to add Obsession to your collection. This is the game Obsession, and it brings us back to Victorian England. And in this game, each of the houses are going to be holding events to invite special guests, which will raise their reputation. So during the courtship season, they can catch the eye of Charles and Elizabeth Fairchild. At the beginning of the game, each player chooses which household they want to play as. And within each household, everybody will receive 4 family member cards. And when you use these cards to do the events, you gain different favors, such as inviting a guest, gaining reputation, gaining some money, or even uninviting a guest you may no longer want in your hand. Now, as well as the 4 family cards, there are also 2 other cards, and these have a crown on them. And so there's a deck, and you just randomly give each player 2 of these cards. And then down here you see one of the servants. And to play this card into an event, you must have the servant that they need to help them along. So that's also part of the game, is matching the servants to your guests. Now to start with, everybody has some servants. So here we have the butler, the housekeeper, the footman, the valet, and the lady's maid. And here in the Howard household, they also gain a cook. And this is part of the upstairs-downstairs expansion. You also start with your 5 starter tiles. And once you play the tile once, it'll get flipped over to the side of the little flower, and usually will give you a bonus or extra points. And you also start with 5 objective cards randomly dealt to you. And by getting those early in the game, it sort of gives you some focus on what you need to focus on during the game so you can score those points. You will be letting some of them go as the game progresses, so whichever ones you've been able to work on the most, you'll hold on to score points at the end of the game. Up here we have our level 1 and level 2 guests. Along the bottom is our builder's market, and that is where we will purchase buildings throughout the game to upgrade our areas. Then we have the servants for hire, and from the ones that I previously mentioned, or along the back, there is also a hall boy, a head housemaid, as well as a useful man. Now, if you purchase the butler's pantry, that is how you would get the under butler. He only comes with the butler's pantry. And luckily, there are these little cards that tell us what all of the servants do. So you don't have to memorize it all. You can just refer to the cards. And then last are the objective cards, and I showed you some earlier, but throughout the game you may get more, and you just get them from this pile. This here is the round track. It's played over 16 rounds, and some of the rounds have special events such as the village fair, and then there are 4 courtships, and it's during the courtships that we're trying to snag Charles and Elizabeth to join our houses for the season. And then there's also some victory point cards that you will pick up along the way to help you score more points at the end of the game. So on your turn, the first thing you're going to do is decide what event you're going to hold. And early on, I like to do the private study with the village fair planning, because in round 3, if you have turned this tile over, you will receive a bonus. So to do it, I would put my activity here. Now this activity wants 2 family members as well as a butler. So you would move the butler into the private study. Now I've decided to invite these 2 family members because I'm really needing some money, and both of them offer me some money. So I invite them to the event. Once you have picked who you're inviting, you gain your favors. So in this case, I'm going to take the 300 pounds, not the reputation. And so I get 300 pounds into my play area. Now the 2 family members or guests that took part will go into a pile that will be put aside until it's time to refresh your cards. At this point, your servant goes to the expended service, and because I did this event, I'm able to turn it over. And you can see now with the flower side up that it's been used, and at the future village fairs, I will get £300 as well as 2 reputation points. And that is why I wanted to play that one really early, because as I said, in round 3, the first village fair comes. After doing that, I have the option of purchasing from the builder's market, and all the things are start at like 300, 400, 500, etc. pounds. So I only have 300 pounds, which means I could purchase this one. What I do, I move my cards. It would just sit in this row underneath there as another option of an event I can do in the future. And then my money, of course, would get put into I paid it off, and then we would just refresh the market board for the next person to go. So all these things will move down. I will pull a new tile, and it is set up for the next player to go. I am at the point in the game when I want to pass, and I'm going to pass for 2 reasons. The first is that I only have a butler available to me, and the only thing the butler currently can do is just hire some servants. And when you pass, you're able to hire servants, so I don't want to use him for that. The second reason is the guest I have left. So this one guest I picked up, he was a casual guest. However, there is a penalty that if I roll the die and get 19 or 20, I could lose 4 reputation, even though I do gain 100 pounds. With this one, she wants me to pay her 100 pounds just to have her there. This one, I just don't have the servant that needs to accompany her. And this gentleman, he is a prestige of 4, and I'm only at a prestige of 2, so a reputation of 2, so I won't be able to invite him yet, as well as I don't have the servant he needs to accompany him. So because of all that, I'm going to pass. So the first thing I'm going to do is move all my workers, refresh my service, because with each turn, they sort of go through the circle. They get pushed. And so all of them are currently at the servants' quarters. So when you pass, you can move them all to be available. The next thing I can do is get all my cards back. So I have all my guests back into my hand that I can invite to different events. Next, you would observe the round track event if anything was going on. And then you have a choice. You can collect 200 pounds, you can hire servants, or you can refresh builder's market. And it is my understanding that you can hire 2 servants. And so I am going to hire the footman, and I'm going to hire the useful man, I have decided. So those 2 servants would get put into my servants round. And the last thing I can do is shop. However, I am a little short on what I want to buy. So over here with your reputation, there are some special actions you can take. And I can use 2 of my reputation to gain 100 pounds. So I'm going to do that. So I go back 2 and I gain my 100 pounds. So now I have 400, and I am able to get this token here. It's the servants' quarters. So even though it was on the 300, it requires an additional 100 pounds. But now that I have this going forward, if there are any servants in the servants' quarters, I'm able to take one of them and deploy them back to work. So it's really beneficial when you're really trying to find the correct servants that all your guests need to accompany them to different events. Now, I just reviewed the rule book, and it's actually when you're hiring 2 servants during the pass round, you're still going to use this tile. So you need the butler, and then you can hire the 2 servants. And then all 3 of them are going to go into the expended servants area at the start of your turn. Now, I just also want to clarify that these are the upstairs, downstairs expansion rules. If you're playing just with the base game, then hiring servants wasn't a choice when you're passing on your turn. We have reached our second courtship. So on the first courtship, it was based on the purple prestige tiles, and Mark and I both had one and were tied. So we just were able to get a victory point card each. This time around, it is based on the sporting tiles. So if we go and look at my sporting tiles, if you add up the points on the bottom right corner, I have 5 points. And when we look at Mark's, he currently has 1 point. So therefore, I have won the hearts of Mr. Charles Fairchild. You can choose if you want Charles or if you want Elizabeth. But because of the servants they need, Charles will be a better choice for me in my current hand. I also receive 1 victory point card that accompanies him. As well, at this point, we are getting rid of one of our objective cards and we are changing who will go first for the next round. And at this point too, we can always turn over the theme card for the next courtship and we are back to purple prestige cards. We've completed the game and I just want to talk about the final courtship. Earlier on in the game, you are scoring just one of your areas. For the final courtship, you are adding up all your tiles under all 4 of these areas. Now, however, since there are 2 purple, you count the 2 purple twice. There may have been, though, an estate card or the essentials or services. There could have been different choices. It's just however they come up here. And so for the final one, you would add up all 4. And in this case, Mark had way more points than I did. So he chose to add Elizabeth Fairchild into his hand and at the end would receive an additional 8 points. So it is now time to add up all our points. And there are many things that get scored. First off are the improvement tiles. You score the points at the bottom. And so it's important that you turn over your tiles throughout the game because that one would have been 6 if I had turned it over. However, I only received 3 because I actually never had a chance to use it. The next thing you do is you score for your cards. And so you score the points in this corner. So you want to be able to get some good cards to get some great points. Next, you score your objective cards that you were eliminating throughout the game. With the money, you get 1 point for every 200 euros you have left. You also score your victory point cards. These can be used as victory points as pointed out here, or during the game, you can use it for their abilities. You also score 2 points for every servant you have. And then for your reputation, if you get to the maximum level, you score 28 points. So you add up all your points. And in our case, I scored 145 points and Mark scored 166. I just want to talk briefly about the upstairs-downstairs expansion. It includes tiles and cards that we have put into the game, but in my opinion, the main purpose of purchasing it is to get some new servants. So I'm just going to go over briefly what the new servants add to the game. So with the cook, you can place the cook on an activity tile, and when you do, you can add 1 to your reputation. As well, the cook allows you to invite guests 1 and 2 levels higher than your current reputation because, as you know, the cook makes such amazing meals that people with a higher prestige want to come and eat them. Next, we have the hall boy, and the hall boy does a few things, but you only do 1 at a time. So you can place the hall boy on a gentry card that has a money favor, and it will increase the money by £100. Or you can substitute the hall boy for a butler on a guest card where the butler is an essential service. Or you can substitute the hall boy for a footman on the carriage house tile. Here we have the head housemaid, and again, you choose one of the 2 ways to use her. You can either place the head housemaid on any gentry card or activity tile with an invite favor to permit the player to screen guests, or you can substitute the head housemaid for the housekeeper on a guest card where the housekeeper is an essential servant. And finally, we have the useful man, and he does a few very useful things, and you would use him use it for one at a time. So you can place the useful man on the private study at the beginning of the village fair round, and he would increase your income by 200 pounds. Or you can place the useful man on any tile in the builder's market for a discount of 100 pounds. Or you can place the useful man on a tile in the organizer at the beginning of a turn to decrease the prestige rating of that tile by 1. So if you wanted to invite a guest of 4, but you only had a prestige of, or if you want to use a tile of 4, but you only had a prestige rating of 3, you can put the useful man down and it would reduce it, so you'll be able to use the tile. He's also used that you can use them, remove them from the game to refresh the builder's market, but I don't know why you would do that. So we just go with the things that we keep them in the game and use them over and over again. So those are the 4 new servants that come with the upstairs, downstairs expansion. Overall, we really enjoy playing Obsession. And I want to just go over a few things we like about the game. And the first is that each of the households has their own little bonus. So this is the Howard household, and this household is included in the upstairs, downstairs expansion as well. The main game comes with 4, and this would add a 5th player to your game. Now, their bonus is that it includes a chef in with the household. So from day 1, you will have a chef in your household. And that really helped me to move along my reputation track really quickly, because I kept pulling her out to use her to gain more reputation. In the Asquith family, who Mark played as, he was given an additional card, the Countess, at this beginning. And so that gave him yet another guest to invite before he needed to pass and change in his cards. And the bonus card gave him a reputation and 100 pounds. We also really like the challenge of playing the tiles with our guests. So for example, with this tile, you need the butler and 4 gentlemen. And so a lot of gentlemen have valets, and having 3 valets available to you at one time is very difficult, because there's a good chance you would have played it earlier and it would still be in servants' quarters. So if you can get it lined up where you could play these 4 gentlemen, have all the valets and butlers you need, it will really pay off. So for example, here you would get 300 pounds of reputation, a casual guest with a reputation, a casual guest and a prestige guest, and 200 pounds. So when you add that all up, it is a lot to add in one turn to your game. So as you go and you get these higher quantity tiles where you can play more people, it's the strategy of how you can make it work that everybody can be played at once so you can gain the most benefits. The next thing I want to talk about are the service tiles. Even though they're not worth as many points at the end of the game, they do offer some amazing benefits. So I got this one early, the servants' quarters. And what that allows is when somebody is in the servants' quarters resting, I'm allowed to take one of those servants out to use on my turn. And that's very beneficial when I'm trying to get, if I only have 1 valet or 1 butler. It also allowed me to use the useful man over and over, as well as the cook. This one here is the butler's pantry, and that's when I gain the under butler. You can only gain the under butler with this card. And then this one here, if you have it, you would gain 1 reputation with each round. So it would generate you a lot of reputation points without needing them from playing cards. So there's a whole bunch of different benefits available on those service cards, so they're always worth checking out when they pop up in the builder's market. So now I want to talk about a few challenges with the game. So for Mark and me, this game took us probably a bit over an hour and a half to play. However, we've played the game before. Now, we haven't played it in a while, and so I had to actually try and remind myself about some of the few small details on how things work to make sure we were playing it correctly. And in doing so, I had to look at the rule book. And this is where the next challenge comes in. This rule book is very wordy. You can tell already they invite you to their story. And so you're trying to figure out a simple rule, and you're trying to look in all of this, and it is so wordy. it ended up a couple of things I couldn't even find in this book. You can just see there's just so much writing. Now, I just will point out that there is a solitaire. You can play it by yourself. I haven't had the opportunity to try it out though. And then it has end of game scoring and even more background. And so this game is so challenging that there are actually 6 double-sided helper cards to try and explain to you how the different servants work, how to do a pass, what symbols mean, whatever you need, and to refer to. So there is a lot of challenge in this game when you're first starting. Now, once you've played a few rounds, you will finally catch on. However, hopefully this video will help you understand how the game is played, because straight off from the beginning, it is actually very confusing reading the book, trying to figure out how this game is played. But hopefully we have been able to help you with all that. Because as I said, once you learn this game, we really do enjoy playing it. It's a lot different from other games out there, and it is a lot of fun. So let me know in the comments if you've had a chance to play Obsession or with the Upstairs Downstairs expansion, and what you think of the game.